Welcome back to It's Showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show. And welcome back. We're here on what's going to be our final episode of the interview with Barbara Brennan. Until maybe down the road we'll do another one if we come up with more things. I always throw that out to people to say, I had other things I want to talk about. Let's schedule it and we'll come up and we'll have another chat. Because I enjoy doing these interviews so much and having a good talk with the stories. And I've learned so much about you and your family, had no idea about. So we'll go ahead and talk a little bit. Okay, so cinema gets sold to PRG, as in the business everyone called it the board because they assimilated everything.
My brother Timmy is the one who came up with that name. I probably shouldn't say
Oh, is
that.
it really?
He is the one that started calling that, even though he was working there.
The board.
Actually, it was first it was called Fourth Phase, and then it became PRG.
Okay.
But what happened is my dad had passed. It was like 1996, and my mother decided to sell the business, and so because Jerry was pushing her, he wanted to buy it because he wanted to have a base here in Las Vegas because they were coming in with all the production shows. And by production shows I mean the convention shows, like the Shell Oil and the Ford and Chevrolet and all of the car shows and everything like that.
Yes.
So that is why he wanted his own company, and he ended up buying Vanco and Bash and Cinema Services, and creating that whole empire.
A1
Hence the
Audio and
board.
Scenic, and they just kept buying and
Just
buying.
keeps
And
going and going and going.
so literally, if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll understand they assimilated everybody.
Yes, they did. Or they tried their best.
Oh, boy, did they.
I stayed there. The company, they took over, and I was working there. And I just got to a point I did not want to stay there anymore. I think I have found in my life that I always liked a challenge. I wanted to keep learning things. And it wasn't a challenge. I was bored, and I wanted to get out of there. So I was married then, and my husband was offered a job to move, and he needed to move to San Diego. And I said, okay, let's go. So I resigned and I left Las Vegas, which that was a hard thing for me. But then I was thinking, San Diego, that's pretty cool.
That's not
Gotta
too bad,
say
is
that.
it?
And I will tell you this, as far as I am concerned, when you die, San Diego is where you go to. It was the most beautiful place, and I loved. We lived outside of town in a place called Encinitas, Lucadia. So we were up in the hills, like where they grow the orchids and the poinsettias, and I would take my dog for a walk every day, and we would climb up the hill and get to see the ocean and everything. It was really beautiful. I really enjoyed it. And I started my own production company, and I started doing some shows around the San Diego area. And also, what happened is I was still getting calls from people from Las Vegas and even like ABC Sports. And then what happened actually is I did some boxing for them because they said that I made boxing look pretty. Who knows? I said, okay. So I ended up doing this thing where I did all these boxing shows for them around the West Coast. I mean, we were in Reno and Albuquerque. We came back to Vegas, so I did a series of shows for them. And then I am doing that. That is what I'm doing. I'm doing lighting. I started doing lighting on my own. And also times I would work as a production manager because I knew enough from what I had learned from my dad. I could run a crew, and if I had I could run a project. That is what I learned how to do, to get things done and do the show. So that is what I was doing. And then ABC came to me and they said, look, the gentleman that was doing our figure skating shows is sick and he cannot do them anymore. And we have tried some people, but they have not worked out. And we have heard about you, and you made boxing look pretty. So how about if you try figure skating? And I'm like thinking, oof. Oh, and I was like, okay, I thought, what can be any different? I had done some gymnastics with Billy, and I was like, okay, I did gymnastics. It's still like a big space, you know. It's ice though,
Yeah.
so I said, okay, I will do it. So they brought me to the first time I did a show for them. It was in Daytona Beach. It was an arena. And you know, I'm walking around and I'm hearing the guys are calling me the girl, you know, because here is this female coming in to do the lighting, and they're all used to this other guy, and they were kind of throwing things at me and not really telling me, saying, well, here, you have to do this, and this is how he used to do it. And not doing it the way that I do it. So I was like, okay, if that is what you want, I will do what you say you want. And so we got done, and we were doing facts. Just so your listeners know, facts is when you are getting ready for a television show and you do it in real time, so you can see what everything looks like.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure that the lighting looks good and everything. And I will be honest with you, Craig, it was terrible. I did not do anything that they wanted, and here I am. I'm having a heart attack because I had met Peggy Fleming, and I was so like blown away. I told her, don't worry, whenever you're on camera, I will make sure that you look fantastic, you know, and they weren't really happy with the pictures. So I went back to my hotel room and I was crying. I was like, oh no. And my husband calls me and he goes, how's it going? I said, it is really bad. And I said, I don't know what I am going to do. And he says, you know what to do. Just go do it. And I'm like, okay. So I got up like at 4 o'clock in the morning the next morning and went back to the arena and started changing everything and doing it the way that I would do it, not what I thought they wanted, because this is how this guy did it. And they came in that morning. The director was a friend of mine, and they're looking at all the pictures. And he's like, what did you do? He goes, it looks fantastic. We are really happy. You know, and I said, I did it my way. And so after that show, then they started hiring me to do all of their figure skating shows. So out of San Diego, I would fly to work. I would go down to the airport and then fly to whatever job that I was going to do. And I ended up working for them for 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Doing figure skating for them. Because of it, I got to travel all over the world, actually. I went to Japan, I went to Germany. It was really an amazing thing that I got to do that, you know, and work with the people and really get into the figure skating. I still watch it. I watched this last Olympics. It was so fantastic. And I thought they did a pretty good job lighting the ice and everything, you know. So I was doing that, and then when I was home, I was doing jobs around the San Diego area. And then, unfortunately, I ended up getting divorced, and I decided that I was going to come back to Vegas because this is what I knew. So I came back here, and I was working for actually a company that sold like regular commercial fixtures, and I ended up getting the Strand company rep for Las Vegas. So I started selling lighting fixtures again, and it turned out. And then I would tell them, look, I have to go and do the shows for ABC. So I was working for Strand, and then I was going and doing the figure skating shows. It was just like my dad. I was doing all the different jobs that I could do, but it worked out really well. And so I did that for a long time, and at least about 10 years. And during that time, Strand was doing the Cirque show, so I sold the dimmer system for the three shows we did. The show that was at New York.
Oh, okay.
And then we did the show that was the big one. We did the show that was at the MGM when they completely took out effects and they took the theater to the dirt and then built everything up to make, you know, like the moving stage, you know, that flips over on its end and everything. So we did that one. We did the dimming system in there. And then we also did O. So, so I was working, now I was going more into the project management side, you know, working on like shows that are starting from scratch, a production show that is going into a hotel, and we are putting it in from the ground up. So I was doing that and still doing the figure skating, but then it got to a point that the figure skating got to be, well, what happened really is ESPN came around, and what happened is ESPN started doing some figure skating, and then when figure skating wanted a lot more money for the rights than ABC was willing to pay, so NBC took it over. So I did not lose my job. I was kind of phased out because ABC wasn't doing the figure skating anymore. So it was good. So I came and I was working here and I was doing these big projects. And then I went to work. This is hilarious. I went back to work for PRG and was doing projects. When I was there with them, we did the redo of La Rev, where we replaced all the Jules Fisher and Peggy Fleming, and not Peggy Fleming, I am sorry, her name escaped me for a moment. They came in and they completely relit La Rev. And so we were selling them all of the equipment for the redo of La Rev.
Okay.
So we did that. And I had a friend of mine, his name was Tim Sage, and he was working for Steve Wynn, and Steve Wynn was getting ready to open the Wynn Hotel, and so he came to me and said, would you like to be a production manager, like in the convention center? His idea was, instead of having somebody like an Encore or something come in and do the lighting and everything in the convention spaces, we were doing it ourselves so that the hotel would make the money. So we did all of these car shows and all kinds of different shows and everything like that. And that was my background, getting equipment, and making sure that the customer was happy. So I did that, and I had to hire the crew, and I just started doing more shows. The same thing again. I mean, and I was here in Las Vegas, which was really great for me because I got to be with my family and everything like that. So it ended up getting to work for the Wynn Corporation. I have to say it was really a wonderful thing. I learned a lot. I learned a lot more about customer service and making people happy and doing a good job. I really enjoyed working there. It was a great place.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about Wynn and his properties, and people love working for him.
He gives you a lot of credit. He was very exact about how he wanted things to happen. I mean, I will tell you some of the things. We were doing a party. It was someone's birthday party, and we were doing a party, and it was in this one restaurant that actually overlooked the golf courses, and so the golf course, and so the 18th hole. And so they had told me that they were going to set off fireworks. I had the fire department come and sign off on it and everything. But I have always been used to dealing with not the cakes, the mortars that they shoot off.
Yeah.
And what they were doing was cakes, and I did not realize that, except when they started shooting the fireworks. I see all of this stuff coming down, and I'm sitting there going, this is coming down on the 18th hole. Oh my God. It was a mess. There was all the fireworks, all of the stuff left over, and the greensmen were going to kill me because of all of that. But they worked all night, and they got all of the firework pieces up and everything, thank God. But actually, by the time it was all over, I was friends with the people that did the golf. So that was good. But you learned a lot, about doing parties and things like that. And but I got to the point because I guess I was starting to get a little bit more mature, and you get a little tired. And the hotel, you are working all hours of the day when you are working in a convention center, especially when you are running the production side of it. You never have a day off. And I was like, you know what? I am done. I just said, I do not need to do this anymore. So that is when I started working for Four Wall. which Bill Larimore, who was a great guy, he said, "Why don't you come and work with us?" And so I really got into doing the projects. I mean, things like the Resort Worlds Hotel, and the last show that I did before I retired was project that I worked on was the Sphere, which is, I am so proud of that. It is so amazing. And what we did is, for the lobby, we did all of the color changing lighting and the control system, the whole system that controls it all. And then in the theater, we did the control system for the lighting. We did the network and everything and put it all together. In Resorts World, we pretty much supplied all of the equipment that handles the public egress. So whether it is the casino or the theaters or the restaurants, convention area, we worked on all of that. So, I mean, I felt like I had made a complete circle coming back to Vegas, and I don't know, I guess I kind of knew that at the end of that it was time to go and relax a little bit.
Enjoy a little life more.
Yeah, it is. What I'm finding now is that I am creating, you kind of lose yourself in all of this because you get caught up in all the different things that you do. And now that I am retired, it is like I'm creating a relationship with myself. I know that probably sounds a little hokey, but it is really important.
Yeah.
To have that. And one of the things I did do all through my whole life is I really love theater. So I was acting, and then I was directing theater, like for UNLV and different theater companies in town. And I have still been doing that, which is really great. I feel like I get to pass on what I have learned to other people. So it is a good thing,
Well, that's awesome. No, you're invaluable in that type of thing. You've seen, boy, the stuff. It's like my family. The stuff we've seen too. It's like we're all in that same upbringing. That the stuff we've done is love to pass on. I love telling people about it.
I have forgotten, I think, more things than I remember of what I have done, and something clicks in your mind and you go, "Oh yeah, I did that. I forgot that we did that." It is great. If I sat down and made a list of all of the shows and everything I worked on, it would be amazing. And each one of them gave me a different experience of life, and how to put something together, and to have a crew behind you making sure that it works. I think about all the boxing and like the Cooney Holmes fight, the Fan Man fight. We did the fight where the guy came into the ring.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these things, I should tell people, because they're going, "What the heck is the Fan Man fight?"
Yeah, look it up online sometime. Because it's pretty crazy.
If you look up under YouTube, you will find
crazy.
it. If we were doing the fight and we had all the lights up, and I have a little pre-story is the night before we are doing facts again, we are looking at everything in real time, and it was the first time that they brought the blimp to to Las Vegas, and it was really windy, and the guy was trying to hold it, and you could see him literally skating across the sky almost. It was very difficult to keep it on track because it was blowing so hard. So we get to the night of the fight, and I am sitting there, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something, and for 1 second, I was like, "Oh my goodness, it's crashing into the stadium." Just remember there was a movie where they did it, and I was like, it went into my head, I'm like, "Oh no." And I turn around and I look, and there is this guy with a big fan on his back and a parachute, and he is sailing into the ring, and everybody, you would think that people would go crazy. Everybody just stood there and watched this guy just land in the ring, and he caught the parachute on the park hands. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Oh my God, they're going to catch on fire." So I looked at Kenny Brown. I said, "Okay, Kenny, just bring that side of the ring down very slowly so that people think that it's part of it and nothing is going to happen and no one is going to get upset."
Yeah.
So he brought the lights down, and then the police are trying to grab it off of the top. And Jeff Riddinger was down at the ring, and I said, "Tell them to stop. They're going to pull the lights down." So Jeff had He had a rope, and I gave him a carabiner, and he created a quick rigging thing, and he climbed up and pulled the parachute off of the park hands, and everybody was cheering. I mean, this was craziness. It really was. When the guy hit the ring, if you remember, well, at that time, that was in the late 90s, everybody's cell phone was the big bricks.
Yeah.
Okay, so when this guy landed, he landed right in the middle of Louis Farrakhan and his group, and they took their phones because people thought that the guy was wired to explode. So they were beating the heck out of him so that he wouldn't explode. You know, and Al Tallman and Jeff, they told me later they were standing at the ring and they're thinking, this is it, we are goners, because there was nowhere to go. Because if you remember, Caesar's Palace would pack that audience into that space. It was crazy. You couldn't even move, you know, because there was just so many people. I mean, I'm sure it was safe according to code, but it still seemed like an awful lot of people.
A lot of people packed back there. Yeah.
I know. Anyway, but that was just one of the things that just come into your mind and you go, oh, yeah, that happened too, you know?
Yeah.
It is good.
We've got about 5 more minutes on this episode. And anything else you want to tell us about I mean, you retired and living the comfy and now
Well,
none of us who
I had a little
retire,
bit
you
of,
know.
I have to say, I had a little bit of an adventure. I wasn't really expecting this, but a year ago, right when I retired, I had a stroke, which it was a really crazy thing. It happened. I know I was too much stress and everything like that, but you know, people will say, oh, this is really a terrible thing. And it was. I will tell you, when I was in the hospital and laying in the bed, and I'm like, after all of this is going to be my life. And I was like, no, this is not going to be my life. So I decided that I was going to get to the place where I could come home, which I did. I'm here. I have been living in my house here by myself. I have a caregiver. I call her my assistant. She comes in and she helps me a couple of times a week, but I have been doing physical therapy and I have been working really hard. Actually, I will tell you today, I drove I would say at least about 8 miles in Las Vegas. I wanted to like have Carissa kind of check me out and make sure how I am doing, but got in the car, pulled in the walker, started the car, driving, and being very careful. But I am planning on just getting better and going and travel and going and see things. I cannot let something like this stop me. You just have to
Absolutely.
keep going forward, you know, for all of us. Because, you know, my mom used to say that old age is not for sissies. It isn't. It isn't. Yeah. It is time for the next adventure, whatever that is going to be, you know, for all of us, for you too.
Yeah, I'm just 64. And yeah, I can feel all those long days and shifts and
Yeah.
injuries from working in show business and everything else. And
No
it catches
lie.
up to you, catches back up to you, and gives you constant reminders. Remember that time you did?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you walk on cement floors and you don't realize that when you get to this age that it is going to affect you. You at the time you're like bouncing around thinking everything is okay, and then all of a sudden things start hurting, you know, but it is all right. That is part of life. But
Yeah.
you know, I am getting better. I mean, today what you came in and you see, I am moving around pretty well, you know. I'm just short of being able to use the cane all the time instead of the walker. So I am working towards that. And you know what? Hopefully, maybe, you know, if I will say this, if anyone who was listening to this, if I run into you and you know who I am, make sure you say hi, you know, because it will be great to see people.
Yeah. No, I thought you're getting around really well. I mean, it's
Yeah, and I am unstoppable.
yeah.
You know, I have this. I am going to keep going forward.
Attitude is a whole big chunk of that. I'll tell you that. And you have plenty of attitude. Well, I didn't mean it like that, but you
Well,
know.
I do, though. You would be surprised. There are a couple people that think I am pretty formidable. You cannot mess around with me. I am my father's daughter.
That's okay. Well, Barbara, I want to thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thanks for coming on the show. And I know, you know, Al Tallman and all the guys are going to listen in on this stuff when I put it out there that you were on it this time, and looking forward to talking to Billy and have him on it. Then maybe we'll do another one where we get both of you together, and then all bets are off.
Yes, it will. It will, especially with the competition thing going on. It will be pretty interesting. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that'll be an adventure of, okay, here we go.
Of mega proportions.
Hang on to your hats. Here we go, folks. But thank you again. Thanks for being on the show.
Craig, this has been such a pleasure. I really appreciate having the time to talk to you. It brings up a lot of wonderful memories for me, and I am glad that I got to share them with you. Thank you so much.
And in about a week, everybody will be able to hear it on YouTube, on the channel, on It's Showtime, the Craig L. Hay Show. So, Barbara, thank you again, and just almost turned us off.
Maybe that is a good thing to
do. But thank you again. And folks, please, we're going to be doing more shows and on the road a little bit, and I'm enjoying this. So until then, folks, you're listening to It's Showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show.